I remember landing under sniper fire. There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles.
They say that the internet is dead. What was once a playground for the living has now become an endless void, inhabited only by soulless bots and cold calculating AI, endlessly competing for your attention. My name is Ghost, and I exist to haunt this void, to be the ghost in your machine. Oh, you think darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was almost a man. By then it was nothing to me but blinding. Who is that? What are you doing in here? Damn trespassers. Oh shit. Dude, you scared the fuck out of me. Well, hey, since you're here, let's talk about Friday the 13th Part 2. Yeah. Look, okay, I'll tell him. Just calm down. Relax. Huh. Greetings. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about Friday the 13th Part 2. One of my favorites in this franchise. As you can probably see, I didn't have the budget for a screen-accurate Pamela Voorhees severed head prop. So, Miss Hillary Clinton is going to stand in for her. And as you can see, she's way more scary. Ugh. She's killed more people than Pamela ever did. And let's face it, she's killed more people than this guy. To date. She would make him run in fear. It's okay, man. I won't let her hurt you. You may want to take that off, though. Wouldn't want to give her any ideas. Hey, just for the record, we're not suicidal. Friday the 13th Part 2 was released on May 1st, 1980. Directed by Steve Miner, it had a budget of $1.25 million, but went on to gross over $21 million at the box office. The movie begins at night, and 2 months after Alice survived Pamela's massacre at Camp Crystal Lake. A little boy plays along the edge of the street, stomping through puddles and singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider song. His mom yells at him to get his ass inside, and after stomping his feet in disgust, he obeys. Just as the boy walks off, a mysterious stranger steps into frame and walks towards the front of an apartment building. Then we see Alice is laying on her bed, either having a really bad nightmare or a really good sex dream. It turns out she is just watching the end of my video on Friday the 13th, but decided to edit out my commentary. She wakes up and goes to the bathroom to take a shit. But before she can take off her onesie and drop her load, she hears the phone ringing. She answers the phone and finds out it's her mom calling to check up on her. Alice shows that she is a rude, ungrateful bitch to her mom and hangs up on her. She decides to take a 15-second shower, then hears the phone ringing again. She answers the phone, assuming it's her mom, but hears no one on the line. This makes her paranoid, so she locks her door and starts checking the apartment for a possible intruder. Then she hears a loud crash in the kitchen and decides to go investigate instead of calling the police on her perfectly functioning telephone. When she enters the kitchen, she discovers that she had left the window open. She grabs an ice pick off the counter and slowly walks towards the window. As she tries to close the window, she nearly gets hit by a fur missile. She puts some water on the stove to boil and decides it's time to feed her hungry pussy. She opens up the fridge and finds that head of lettuce she forgot to throw away months ago. The mysterious man from earlier then grabs Alice by her throat and she screams.
Oh, yes! Yes!
Just kidding. He stabs her in the head and he's nice enough to remove the boiling kettle off the burner before leaving. Now we are treated to the epic title scene. The movie jumps forward 5 years, and we get introduced to Jeff and Sandra, riding in a sweet, jacked-up Chevy Cheyenne 4x4. Jeff parks in front of a gas station, and as they get out, Crazy Ralph spots them. They run down the street to a payphone, because back then, people weren't fucking lazy like they are now, and they call their friend Ted. They tell Ted that they made it to town, but Crazy Ralph interrupts them to let them know that they are all doomed. While Jeff tries to get directions from Ted, Sandra notices that their truck is getting towed. The tow truck loads up Jeff's truck and takes off while Jeff and Sandra give chase. The tow truck driver rounds the corner and Jeff and Sandra find out Ted is there waiting and that Ted had the tow truck tow Jeff's truck as a prank. We also find out that Ted literally looks like a live-action version of a cartoon character.
No, I doesn't.
The three of them then load up into Jeff's truck and head out of town. After driving for a while, they are forced to stop due to a large tree branch lying in the road. Jeff and Ted jump out to move it out of the road, and Sandra wanders over to a driveway with a lock chain across it. While she walks around, we see that someone is watching her from the woods. She finds an old sign in the grass with the words Camp Crystal Lake written on it. Ted says it's from Camp Blood, and that the camp is near their final destination. We then meet Paul, who runs a camp counselor training facility near Camp Crystal Lake called Packanack Lodge. Paul summons his counselors in training for a meeting by ringing a huge iron bell that's mounted on the front porch. One of the counselors named Terry gets a pebble launched at her ass cheek by another counselor named Scott, who wants to stuff her like a Thanksgiving turkey. In other words, he really wants to
Terry, you turkey.
During the meeting, we get introduced to two more counselors. There's Mark, a seemingly nice guy in a wheelchair, and Vicky, who wants nothing more than to straddle Mark in his wheelchair. Crazy Ralph decides to ride out to the lodge and does what no other cyclist could ever seem to do. He gets the fuck out of the road when a car comes. Back at the lodge, Paul sees his assistant, Guinea, pulling up late in her red Volkswagen convertible, so he takes her off to the side to straighten her ass out. Guinea explains that she is late because her car is a German-made piece of shit. Paul tries to squeeze in a quickie, but Guinea shuts him down because he didn't pay the phone bill.
Oh.
Paul goes back to the group and lays out the rules for
If you're a
them.
woman, don't use perfume. Change often. And keep clean during your menstrual cycle.
Later that evening,
I
Paul
wanna scare
gathers the
anyone.
counselors around the fire to tell them the story
I'm
of
gonna give it to you
Jason.
straight about Jason. His body was never recovered from the lake after he drowned.
Nope.
You were cold as ice.
Ah, fuck! Yeah, I can't go back to prison.
Have you listened to the old timers in town? They'll tell you he's still out there. Jason's out there. Surviving in the wilderness. Full grown by now. Thirsty for young blood. And keep clean during your menstrual cycle.
Ted jumps out of the woods holding a spear and wearing a Bernie Sanders mask and scares the shit out of everyone. Afterwards, everyone goes inside the lodge to hang out. Ted puts his spear and mask by the stairs, then breaks out his Game Boy. While Jeff and Sandra are busy grab-assing, Vicky gets wet watching Mark show off his arm wrestling skills. Scott tries to score with Terry, but gets shut down because he's under 6 foot and makes less than 6 figures. And Guinea and Paul play chess by the fireplace. Guinea decides to call it a night and heads out to her cabin. Guinea walks inside and pulls off her shirt, showing the audience what committee she belongs to. Someone knocks on her door, so she opens it and gets the shit scared out of her by Paul. He quickly grabs her up because he knows more than a handful is a waste, and she's got more than that to offer. Ralph watches from outside and does his best to keep Jason off them so Paul can score.
I'm not leaving my wingman.
Ralph succeeds,
Watch out, watch out!
but pays the ultimate price.
Oh God! Oh God! Oh God! Oh.
The next morning, Paul makes the counselors go for a run through the woods. Jeff flips off the disabled guy, reminding him that he couldn't participate even if he wanted to. Jason shows up to shop for future victims, and Skinny catches his eye. Terry's dog, Muffin, runs into Jason, and he decides he's in the mood for Chinese food. Guinea shows off her chainsaw skills, but instantly fades into the background once Terry walks by wearing her tiny shorts. Hot damn, Terry! Terry goes looking for Muffin, and we find out Jason had to come catch a glimpse of that ass too. Guinea goes to her cabin to put up her chainsaw, and Jason watches her from the woods. Later, everyone decides to head down to the lake to go swimming, but Sandra has other plans. While her and Jeff sneak away, Guinea and Ted, hot damn, Guinea, peek to see who has the worst dad joke.
It's green and red, and goes 100 miles an hour. What? A frog in a blender.
It's brown and sits on a piano. Beethoven's last movie.
Jason watches as Jeff and Sandra completely disregard his no trespassing sign, so he does what any responsible property owner does and calls the local sheriff. The sheriff fails to resolve the issue, so Jason decides not to vote for him in the next election. Feeling as if he has no choice, Jason decides to take the law into his own hands, which earns him a reputation of a man that gets things done. The locals convince him to run for sheriff in the next election, and he is elected as the new sheriff of Wessex County. Nah. Would have been kinda cool though. Jeff and Sandra come across what's left of Muffin and debate on telling Terry about it. The sheriff discovers them trespassing near the camp and takes them back to the lodge to confront Paul about it. Paul doesn't think it's a big deal, but the sheriff strongly disagrees. On his way back to town, the sheriff spots Jason running across the road and chases him through the woods. He loses sight of him, but comes across a makeshift shack in the woods and decides to investigate. After checking out the bathroom, he opens a door to the back room and finds out Jason has a secret. Jason shows up and takes him out with a claw hammer before he can snitch.
Okay, people. Today was fun and games, right? Oh, sure. Now, I like to start you out slow, ease you into it. Tomorrow,
Later that night, Paul asks everyone if they want one last night on the town. Paul makes Sandra and Jeff stay behind as punishment for their earlier hijinks. Terry decides to stay at the lodge because she's hopeful that Muffin may come back.
I'm gonna go check.
Jeff and Sandra look at each other and they don't say shit. Scott also decides to stay because he's hopeful he'll get to see Terry's muffin too.
Hey, you staying?
Yeah, nothing spoils a party.
Mark passes, not wanting to be a burden on anyone, so Vicky decides to stay behind with him.
Appreciate that. But I'm in training.
Then I'm staying too.
Suit yourself.
This scene was filmed in one continuous shot, and it's fantastic. Everyone else then heads to town, and Terry decides to go for a walk, while the others head inside for the evening. Afterwards, Jason's shadow can be seen walking around the outside of the lodge. Terry strolls down to the lake and calls out for Muffin. Paul, Guinea, and the rest of the crew arrive at the local bar and casino. Terry decides to go skinny dipping, which is exactly what everyone was hoping she'd do. Back at the lodge, Vicky swoons as she watches Mark arm wrestle Jeff. Sandra calls Jeff up to the bedroom, leaving Vicky alone with Mark, which gives her the opportunity she needed to seal the deal with him. Then we find out that Muffin isn't the only Muffin of Terry's that's hairy.
Terry?
Terry.
Quite contrary, trim that.
Muffin?
It's so damn hairy.
Scott is so impressed that he sneaks down to the beach and steals her clothes. He throws her pants and shoes, but keeps her shirt for himself. Scott must be a titty guy. She chases after him, but he gets caught in a rope trap before he gets too far. Terry offers to cut him down if he agrees to stop perving on her. She leaves to go find something to cut him down with and throws her towel directly at Jason's face, making him angry. He finds Scott and decides to take out his aggression on him. Terry returns and finds Scott has had his throat cut. She screams and Jason kills her off screen.
Damn it.
Back at the bar and casino, Ned tries to score with the bartender, while Paul and Guinea sit at the bar, getting hammered. A highly intoxicated Guinea starts psychoanalyzing Paul's Jason story. She expresses curiosity of what Jason may be up to these days, and calls him a frightened retard. Paul and Ned make fun of her, and she doubles down on her theory. Paul tries to assure her that Jason isn't real, but her intolerance to alcohol is.
I think you're drunk.
To Paul's defense, there's no possible way he could have known that Jason was presently at the lodge, murdering half his trainees. Jason then looks in on the rest of his victims to choose who's going to be the next winner of his all-expenses-paid trip to the afterlife. Sandra and Jeff decide to head upstairs, making Vicky and Mark the front runners to win. Vicky asks Mark what happened to his legs. Then she wastes no time asking him if his cock still works. Mark lets her know that he can deliver, so she heads out to her cabin to freshen up. While at her cabin, she decides to take Paul's advice
Change often.
and decides not to.
If you're a woman, don't use perfume. And keep clean during your menstrual cycle.
And like the previous movie, the weather turns bad and it begins to storm. Back at the lodge, Mark hears someone outside and goes out onto the front porch to see if it's Vicky. Mark doesn't see anyone and starts to get a bad feeling that he's not alone. Mark's paranoia is justified when Jason sneaks up behind him and gives him the most memorable death scene in this movie. Seriously, man, that was fucked up. After dispatching Mark, Jason enters the lodge and grabs Ned's spear on his way upstairs to find Jeff and Sandra. He finds them in the bedroom having sex and gets himself a 2-for-1 special. Back at the bar, Paul and Guinea decide to call it a night, while Ned and the others keep on keeping on. Vicky then returns to the lodge, but she can't find Mark anywhere. She decides to go upstairs and ask Jeff and Sandra if they had seen Mark, but gets ambushed and killed by Jason. Paul and Guinea make it back to the lodge, but they immediately notice that no one is around. Guinea and Paul go upstairs and find Jeff and Sandra's bed covered in blood. Then suddenly the lights in the house cut off. They go downstairs to find a flashlight, and Jason suddenly appears and manages to jump Paul from behind. Guinea just stands there while Paul gets his ass handed to him by Jason. And once he finishes with Paul, Jason goes after her. She runs into the bathroom and closes the door behind her. But for some reason, Jason does not pursue her. Guinea attempts to open the window to escape, but Jason bursts through the window from the outside and tries to grab her. She runs out of the bathroom and into the kitchen, locking the door behind her. Guinea quickly grabs a kitchen knife and attempts to open the window to escape, but she stops when she sees Jason is trying to open the kitchen door. She positions herself near the door and gets ready to stab and dash once he breaks through. Jason decides to break out the big hardware and shoves a pitchfork through the door. Guinea runs to the pantry, but when she opens the door, she is heartbroken to discover that Jason had killed the considerate cyclist she had met on the road the day before. This causes her to drop her only weapon, and then she busts her ass as she flees out the kitchen window. She runs to her car, but finds out the hard way that she should have bought American. Jason decides to play peekaboo with her, until he realizes she's in a convertible, and he brought a pitchfork. Despite Jason having the upper hand, Guinea somehow manages to knock him to the ground, and she runs away. Then she plays her own game of peekaboo with him, but the loser gets kicked in the balls. They switch to playing hide and seek, but Guinea proves she's better at that game too. Guinea runs to her cabin and hides under her bed, but Jason finds her after she spills Mountain Dew on the floor. Jason decides to give peekaboo one more shot, but he fucks it up again. Guinea grabs her gas-powered Excalibur, but only manages to take 5% off Jason's health bar. She runs into the woods and somehow mistakes Jason's hobo shack for a good place to get help. She runs inside to find help, but looks out the window to see Jason approaching. She runs to the back of the shack and finds another room to hide in. She makes it inside the room and quickly locks the door. She turns around and discovers that Jason has built an altar for Pamela's head, and he has been placing his victims' bodies all around it. Jason grabs a pickaxe and starts breaking down the door to get to Guinea. Guinea looks around the room and sees the sheriff's body. Guinea quickly runs over to his body and grabs his sidearm and extra ammunition from his duty belt. Just then, Jason bursts through the door, and she unloads 6 rounds into him at close range, 2 of which strike him in the head. Guinea reloads the gun and fires an additional 3 rounds into his head at point-blank range. Guinea then runs backwards out of the shack for some reason and calls the local authorities. Yeah, none of that happened. Would have been cool if it did, but no. Instead, Guinea looks around the room and sees Pamela's head, the machete Alice used to decapitate her, and Pamela's sweater. Guinea decides to put on Pamela's sweater and quickly fixes her hair to somewhat look like Pamela's. Then she grabbed the machete, which is okay, I guess. I mean, personally, I would have grabbed the gun, but she turns around and hides the machete behind her back, just as Jason breaks through the door. As Jason charges at her, she yells out his name, and he stops. Guinea looks at him and tells him his work is done and that Mommy is pleased. Guinea yells at him again and she says, "Mother is talking to you." This causes Jason to stop in his tracks once again. She tells him to kneel down, then gets ready to reunite him and his mother. But when she leans a little bit too far to her right, and he sees Pamela's head still on the altar, he snaps back into reality. As she swings the machete at him, he uses his pickaxe to block her strike, then he stabs her in the leg with it. Just as Jason is about to finish Guinea off, Paul arrives, and this time he jumps Jason from behind. But he immediately gets his ass whooped again. Jason is about to finish Paul off for good when Guinea sneaks up behind him and buries the machete deep into the top of his left shoulder and down into his chest. Jason's eye rolls back into his head and he collapses to the floor. Paul wants to bail, but Guinea has to take a minute to pull off Jason's potato sack to get a good look at his face. They are both grossed out by his appearance, although it remains unseen to the audience. Once they are satisfied they have burned the memory of his grotesque face into their minds, they finally decide to leave the shack. As they journey back to the lodge, Guinea struggles to walk, so Paul picks her up and carries her, undoubtedly wondering why she smells like a bucket of hot piss. Paul manages to carry her back to her cabin and puts her down on her bed. Suddenly they hear a noise from outside, and Paul gives Guinea the pokey end of Jason's broken pitchfork and arms himself with a broken handle. Paul readies himself to likely take another ass beating and opens the door. They are relieved to find out that Muffin finally did come home.
Gotcha, bitch!
This is for Terry, motherfucker! But Guinea finds out that Muffin was just a distraction, so Jason could sneak around back and grab her through the window. The next morning, Guinea is getting loaded into an ambulance and asks the medics where Paul is. Where indeed. Muffin's nowhere to be found either, so I'm assuming Jason jumping through the window was just a dream, and he really did eat Terry's muffin. That means Paul survived too, so maybe he was getting loaded into a different ambulance, or getting interviewed by the authorities. Who knows? So we finally come to the end of Friday the 13th, Part 2. And now it's awards time. Say Best Actor goes to Guinea. I think Amy Steele did a pretty good job, especially during the final act. Favorite character has to go to Mark. Mark seemed like a genuinely really nice guy. So you probably know what's coming next. Most memorable kill? Mark. His reaction when he gets that machete buried into his face was, spot on. Just brutal. And then that trip down the stairs was, that was like the cherry on top. It's like, holy shit! He just killed a disabled guy and then kicked him down the fucking stairs. Jason don't give a fuck in this movie. It's like, you're all gonna fucking die. Worst character has to go to Sandra. I mean, if she just would have listened to Paul and stayed at the fucking lodge, Jason may have never snapped. And everyone may have lived through the night. Who knows? Fucking curious ass women. Shit. Oh yeah, and Ted survived. All because he was trying to get laid. Imagine when he comes back in the morning and he's going to be like, holy shit, what the fuck happened here? They should have brought Ted back in the other movies. Spoiler alert, they don't. You never see Ted again. which is a damn shame because they should have brought him back. I mean, he did survive part 2. He should have, like, been a legacy character. But, I mean, then again, they don't bring back any characters except one. But we'll get to that. All in all, not a bad movie. We still gotta wait to the next movie until he gets his hockey mask, but I think Jason, he fucked shit up in this movie. Great movie. I mean, it had a lot of suspense, a lot of good kills. The acting wasn't, like, too atrocious. I hate that Ralph died. Fuck. But, I mean, they pretty much killed everyone who survived the first movie in this movie. Alice, gone. Ralph, gone. The sheriff probably was in the first movie. We just didn't see him. Gone. All in all, great movie. I love it. I've seen it God knows how many times. And I'll see it God knows how many more. So next video, we're moving on to part 3. And that's when Jason bulks up and gets his definitive attire. Gets his clothes, gets his muscles, gets his hockey mask. Can't wait. Yeah, I've heard that one before. Wasn't funny then either. But hey man, I gotta tell you something. Here lately, I've become kind of suspicious of you. Oh yeah. In fact, let's just see who you really are. What the fuck? Honestly, I'm really not that surprised. I have to return to the void now, but I will haunt you in the next video. Look, never mind what I was doing sitting alone in the dark, okay? It's my business.